Occasionally in Excel, you've got long formulas, and they're not always giving you the answers that you're expecting. And so there are two quick techniques for helping you debug formulas. There are others as well, but here are two short ones. In cell F2 is a formula involving not too many other cells, but imagine if it's not quite coming up with the answer that you expected. You think something's wrong, it doesn't read quite right, not sure. When you edit a formula, and you can do that by double-clicking in the cell or clicking in the formula bar, I'm going to double-click in cell F2. What you can do is highlight portions of the formula to see what that portion evaluates to. For example, if we were to highlight just these cells here, and we wonder what does that equal to right now on the spot, highlight some data and hit the F9 key. That shows us the value of that. Now that might or might not have been revealing in this case. Maybe if we highlight that and the portion of the formula to the left of it, E17 times that. And we see this. That still might or might not have helped. And so you'll have to try this with different components of a formula. Now you want to be careful when you're doing this. As soon as that light bulb goes on that says, oh yeah, now I got it figured out, don't hit enter here, hit escape, because sometimes you're not really trying to change the formula. You want to give it some thought maybe. Perhaps it is the wrong cell, or maybe you've got these in the wrong order somehow. And when you're doing this, you might get a strange message if what you're highlighting by itself doesn't make for a coherent formula. For example, if I were to highlight these cells here, and you'll see why that obviously is not a correct formula by itself, hitting F9 here, it goes off into a little tangent to tell us something else that really isn't appropriate. So just click OK, get out of there, and consider this again. And you certainly can highlight areas that include parentheses. Maybe this whole part of the formula is something maybe you suspect is a bit off. You might highlight that, hit F9. Once again, does that help? Does it not? Maybe we'll include this part of it as well. You also run the risk occasionally when you do this of highlighting cells where the formula might not be exactly the same order that Excel is calculating them in. So occasionally when you do this, it can be misleading. But keep in mind the idea that you're just questioning this. If you happen to hit enter, then do a quick undo if you really didn't want to change it into its values. Normally, though, we just hit escape. Now, another shortcut that by itself doesn't really debug a formula, but it's going to give you some help. In cell G16 here is a really, really long formula. And this discussion is not really about the if function, and so that's not really relevant here. But this is one of those ridiculously long formulas that you will see sometimes. And I'm not saying that it's wrong or right. In fact, maybe I shouldn't even have said it's ridiculous, but it's pretty long. And here's what you can do sometimes that will be really helpful. This function, like we say, is quite long. And while editing it, either in the formula bar or if you've double-clicked in the cell, as I have, you can try the following. In front of the second if, I'm going to click right here and use Alt-Enter. Now, Alt-Enter simply introduces a line break. I'm going to do this in front of the next if. And that's an arbitrary choice. You can put it wherever you want, but I think this would be a logical place. Alt-Enter, click in front of the next if, hit Alt-Enter, and in front of this one, and maybe even the first one. Now, I would never make the claim that you instantly understand everything now, but this certainly structures the formula in a much more coherent way. And of course, you would need to know something about the if function and the and function. But the way this display is now, it's much more coherent. You've got a much better chance of figuring out how it might be working or not working. And here too, as in other examples, you can highlight portions of this. Click F9. That will tell you in logical constructions whether this is true or false. And that helps also in deciphering the formula and trying to figure out what's going on. But this is a nested if, and sometimes these are quite long. And if you didn't write it, or if you wrote it a long time ago, you need something like this to really give you a handle on it and help you figure out what's going on. Eventually here, I might either hit escape or get out of here, and maybe I didn't quite finish that the right way, so I do it again. But the point is, by doing this, you are not really changing the result, unless, of course, you hit F9 and hit enter. But by using this capability here, of using Alt-Enter, that is, you can structure this differently. Now, hitting enter here does not change the formula in any way other than its display. And if you happen to come back here again, One downside of this, look in the formula bar right now. You don't see this. You don't see all of it because the equal sign's by itself. Double clicking lets you see it here, but how are you going to know that otherwise? You don't always foresee that unless perhaps you are the one who has done this. But here's something else you can do. You can make the formula bar taller. Just slide onto its bottom edge up there and do that. So that's going to help. You got more room to edit without having it overhang into the worksheet area. So 2 techniques for helping you figure out what works in a formula and what doesn't work.